Hi, Amy.
Hi, B.
Last night we watched 90 Day Fiancé, Season 11, Episode 19, which was the tell-all part 1.
We sure did.
We also watched one of our favorites. What's it called? Can't remember. Traveling
Marry Me
the
Abroad.
World.
Match Me Abroad.
Match Me Abroad.
One
Season
of our favorites. Can't remember the name.
That's so great. What a great start. Yeah, Match Me Abroad is what we'll be focusing on next rather than the Happily Ever After, which looks absolutely abysmal this season. I don't think I could stand watching it just for my own entertainment's sake, let alone for a podcast. I don't care about these freaking couples. We've seen them so many times. And like Jasmine and Gino, we don't need to see them. We already know that they're broken up. Everybody knows that they're broken up. What the hell are we watching them in Happily Ever After for?
I wonder if their NDAs didn't overlap. And that's why they were able to reveal so much before HEA even aired.
Painful.
Honestly, I just don't care. I am just so relieved that you and I are on the same page with that.
Yeah.
Because that would have been awful.
I can't suffer through another HEA unless it was with new couples. If they had David and Sheila, I know we're always harping about David and Sheila. Everybody must think that we're like mega fans. I guess we are. But if it was a real couple, okay, fine. And somebody that hadn't been on too many other iterations of 90 Day Fiancé, but they've got like Elizabeth and what's his name? Macho dude from...
Andre,
thank you. And they've been on how many? 17, 18, 19, 20 different seasons. I really don't care to see them again. Yeah.
I agree.
I'm sure other people share our feelings, but if you're wondering why we're not covering that season, that is the reason.
We'd rather be selective about what we cover as opposed to just recording just to record. And honestly, I don't feel like wasting our time watching the show and then just complaining about it. Yeah. I'd rather have legitimate commentary as opposed to just, well, this is shit. Okay, that's my commentary for the entire episode.
Which is why we chose Match Me Abroad, because last season, you and I both loved it, and we found it very genuine, very real. The characters were quirky and lovable, and there was so much to relate to in their dating stories. It's not the pressure of having to get married in a certain time frame. It's just dating. So you see a much more interesting spectrum and lightheartedness that they try to avoid when they're talking about 90 Day or any of those spinoffs, because everything has to be so incredibly dramatic and serious and different. Anyway, let's quickly move on. We've got a lot to cover. So let's do the 1, 2, 1, rate, review, and follow us wherever you listen to the podcast. 2, watch the podcast on YouTube by searching for it at 90 Day Fiancé, honestly. Comments from last week, I forgot to mention. I have a couple of comments that I wanted to bring up on Spotify. We have a listener, Danielle, who asked about the threesome in particular, the throuple. She said, isn't a threesome just a way of her, meaning Amani, being able to cheat on her husband? Good observation.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like we kind of touch upon that in this episode.
Yeah, we really do. We really dive into that in the tell-all. So that'll be interesting. I think we should reserve any further comments until we get to that part. Secondly, on YouTube, a listener viewer called St. Clinton left us a very long, very complimentary comment. Thank you very much for that, by the way. The salient points are, if you look closely, he's talking about Shekinah and Sarper's bedding ceremony. You'll see some other people. Oh, this was the Mark and Mina part. You'll see some other people board the plane prior to Mark and Mina getting on. And I watched it again. And yes, indeed, there's a pilot, because Mark and Mina are both drinking champagne. So obviously he's not going to be flying the plane. They are alone in the plane with the pilot. They're sitting in the back seat. He's sitting in the front, and there may have been one other person on board. I don't know. It's hard to tell who actually got on. Yeah, maybe. But I think that they had fixed cameras like they do when they have the car rides. Yeah. And then the bedding ceremony, he said, you, like many others, forgot to include the TLC crew as to who was in the room. I wouldn't be surprised, he said, to find out that TLC brought in a photographer either before or after the ceremony to take pictures in a reenactment of the service. Absolutely. Yeah. Yes, that is correct. We didn't mention the crew being in the room. I did think of it. I'm sure you thought of it as well. But for the purpose of there being witnesses, you would think you would have somebody there who means something to you. But I guess that's not always the case, as with Shekinah and Sarper. I didn't think about there being a photographer in the crew But that was obviously the case, since afterwards we saw the photos online on their Instagram of the wedding, which I'm sure everybody has seen now. So yes, there was a photography session.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Finally, St. Clinton says, like you both, I have no desire to see past cast members on the tell-all. This is in reference to people like Big Ed and Veronica, etc. I enjoy them on Pillow Talk, but there's no need to also have them in the studio. Agreed.
Yes.
Thank you.
Excellent points.
These cast members usually have their own airtime on Pillow Talk, so why the heck do we need to see them getting involved in any other capacity in 90 Day Fiancé, especially a season that isn't their own? It's just silliness. And as Sean would say, let's dig in. Do you have any commentary for the arrivals?
I thought it was interesting that a couple of the couples walked in looking completely defeated. Sarper made the comment that everything has changed since they got married. Stevi made the comment that he's been walking on eggshells around Stevi. I think Shekinah and Sarper also arrived separately. Aaliyah looked absolutely phenomenal when she walked out of the car. I think that summarizes it for me.
Yeah, there wasn't too much to note, I think, in these arrivals. They're definitely shortening things up for us to make it more about the part of the show that's in the studio, which I'm grateful for. The only commentary that I really had was about Shekinah and Amani. Shekinah definitely looks like she's had a butt implant surgery. Her dress was so sheer that in some of the shots with which they took from behind, they were having to blur out her butt because you can see everything.
I didn't notice.
I was like, oh my God, but they're actually blurring this. You can see like her thong. Amini, whatever her name is, she's had a list of surgeries, including a butt lift, a nose job, a mini tummy tuck, an eye lift. And I thought she didn't mention, because it seemed apparent to me, that she's also had a breast augmentation because they looked way much bigger.
Yeah, I think she said she had 5 different surgeries. Someone needs to stop.
Yes.
And she looks so much older than what she is, because I think she's only 30 something, if not 30, and she looks much older.
Okay, well, let's comment on that when we get to them. We started off with Stevi and Mahdi. By the way, last week we were talking about, we think that Stevi and Mahdi had the fastest wedding, but then I realized at some point during the week when I was thinking about something else, probably doing laundry or whatever, that Sam and Citra had the fastest wedding because they got married within 2 weeks of her arrival. Remember, her dad made that a condition because she's Muslim, right? And there was all this controversy over her living with him. So the 2 weeks, and then Mahdi and Stevi getting married within 4 weeks. Anyway, the good news is that Mahdi has a green card, and yes, he is working. He is a personal trainer.
Good for him. I loved it when Sean asked if the stress was worth it, and Maddie said no, but he is working. So I'm kind of disappointed for him that he feels that way, but I'm really happy for him. And also surprised that his green card came so quickly. I think that was the intention of getting married earlier. I'm proud of him for going out and getting a job as soon as he possibly could. And I really hope that that helps make him feel a little more at home in his new country.
We have an unnecessary guest who arrives very quickly into their segment. It's Veronica. These connections that they make between the unnecessary guests, past cast members, and current cast members are so tenuous. The reason why they have Veronica there is because she is currently dating a man from Iran, from Persia. So she knows all about dating a Persian person.
But
insert eye roll here.
Aren't you 40 something and you say you're dating a boy? Personal invitation.
That's a good point. Yep. And also on the couch is Saeed. Of course, we knew he would come up. Even larger, bigger, stronger eye roll from me at this point. And Saeed, we learn, has been trying to persuade Mahdi to come live in California, to live with him. The only word that I have for Saeed at this point is obnoxious. He's obnoxious.
I agree.
I wondered for a momentary lapse, is Saeed in love with Mahdi? Is that why he's trying to explode Mahdi's marriage to Stevi, and why he's trying to get him to come and live with him? It just seems weird.
I got the same vibe.
And then why isn't Mahdi being 100% honest with Stevi about this offer from Saeed for him or them, as he says he thinks he interpreted the request, to come and live in California. Why did he tell her about that?
I don't know. He doesn't really explain himself very well when they were asking those questions. So I'm really not sure. It could have just been like the request was just so stupid that it was like, there's no point in even saying anything. And also there's still that contention between Stevie and Saeed. So maybe that's why, but I can't put words in his mouth. I'm really not sure, but I think that that's something he probably should have mentioned, especially when this wasn't something that he was going to consider in any capacity.
Yeah. Well, the only other topic that I've noted as being at all interesting for Stevi and Mahdi is the whole question of the bisexuality, which came up again. And they approach it from a slightly different angle. Yeah, I know you're tired of talking about it. I am too. But Sean actually asked an interesting question. She said, has Stevie ever kissed a woman? Different way to approach it. And Stevie, again, does not answer. And she gives that tried and true response you and everybody else and I have heard. I'm not attracted to bodies. I'm attracted to soul. I've heard that so many times from women who claim to be bi, but they always end up in a lesbian relationship. So make of that what you will.
Yeah. If you want to talk about, being in love with somebody's spirit and not specifically what genitals they have, then that would make you pansexual. And then I think she was talking to Shekinah later, and she said she just didn't want to put a label on it. I'm like, oh, so now you're admitting to it without actually admitting to it. And then she makes a comment when she was on the couch, like, would it change anything if he found out? If. She used the word if, which I capitalized and underlined.
Okay. Okie dokie. That's lovely.
Yeah, so it's a little late.
That concludes my notes on Stevi and Mahdi. What about you? Any other further comments?
I just wanted to make mention that she did admit that she has narcolepsy.
Yeah.
We were talking about that before, about, her falling asleep while eating and trying to figure out what happened with that. But that was really the only answer that we got. If we've already received it before, I don't remember. But she doesn't talk about her, like the origins of her fear bridges or any of the other issues that she has. So, I mean, at least it was brought up, though it wasn't addressed. So, per Sean, it's a lot to unpack here. Let's move on.
Excellent. Shekinah and Sarper. As mentioned before, Shekinah also has had some plastic surgery. Oh, great. No surprise. She is going for the natural look. Does she look more natural? No, she looks very unnatural. Between her and Amani, I was fascinated every time their faces came on screen to look at them, to try to study them, because they are looking so much not human now. It's scary.
Just so incredibly plastic. And with, Shekinah says she's had all of her fillers dissolved, but I don't believe that because both her and Amani's faces barely move.
Yeah. No, they you're right. They don't move, but it's just everything, especially around the eyes, is so stretched and the lips are so puffed.
Yes.
And everything else
is so tight.
Everything else is sunken. I'm scared of her.
Of Shekinah?
Yes.
She is definitely something out of a nightmare.
Yes. So Shekinah's nightmare, speaking of, was that things after they got married would change. Sounds familiar? Much? Because that's exactly what Sarper said. That was his biggest fear. And yes, they have managed to realize both of their biggest fears. They're equally finding that since they got married, things have changed, and they have changed for the worse, not for the better. Shekinah blames Sarper. She says he's been depressed. That's why things got so bad. As usual, a stunning capacity for compassion and understanding of her partner. Love that for her. Meanwhile, Sarper blames himself. He says, it's my need to control things that have caused our marriage to go sour. So he's basically struggling with having to be not as independent as he's used to being. Help me. Somebody help these two, because I can't make heads or tail of what's going on.
I don't know, but he seems like he's so done. And then he makes that weird comment about eating his own penis. Do you have any idea what he was trying to say?
And I got the impression it was something about feeling emasculated. It was one of those Turkish expressions that is somewhat difficult to unpack, but that's the general sense that I found in eating his own penis.
I tried to listen to it a couple times, and each time I was more confused. So I thought I would just leave it and talk to you about it.
Okay. Well, unnecessary guests?
Here we go.
Yeah, it's Dan. Of course it's Dan. Who else would it be?
Sweet Dan.
Uh-huh.
And did you catch the music that they played when he was walking on the
No.
stage?
Was it
It was
Jaws?
like, no, it was like one of those old music boxes, like the jewelry boxes with the
Yeah.
ballerinas in it, the ones that you have to wind up. It was like the strangest music.
Were they trying to be French? Was it trying to be like an accordion kind of cafe music? I'll
I
have to go back
have
and listen to that. That sounds very
It was
weird.
almost like creepy, child haunting horror film music.
I like it.
It was so strange.
The whole thing was strange because he starts
Mhm.
talking about donkeys and unicorns. Made
Oh,
no
that was
sense.
Sarper. He said when when there are no horses left on the ranch, Dan sees himself as the unicorn.
But he's a donkey. Right.
Oh, that's what. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
God, I bungled that up really good.
I don't even know how to describe it. These two guys, Dan and Sarper, trying to flex who's got the bigger biceps, who's got the bigger swinging, you know what.
Mm-hmm.
So stupid. And meanwhile, Shekinah, does she take a step towards helping her husband at all? Does she try to defend him or say anything to get Dan to stop crapping all over her husband? No.
Of course
No.
not.
She defends Dan. She chastises Sarper. It's
And
such
she
a
makes
mess.
She makes a comment that Dan loves rejection, and that's
Yeah.
why he keeps trying to date everyone in the friend group. And
Yeah.
I think that that's the closest that she's come to standing up for Sarper in any capacity. And it wasn't even standing up for him.
No.
I feel like it was more her making a joke that her and Dan have already joked about before.
Yes, definitely. It was not intended as a mechanism to prop up Sarper. No way. We find out that at Christmas, Sarper took off his wedding ring. He left it behind along with the AirTag. And this is what Shekinah says to us, that he left. When it's his turn to speak, he says Shekinah kicked him out.
And who do we believe?
Well, given that, only moments later, when they go on break and Shekinah goes into a dramatic outpouring of some kind of emotions, don't know what it is exactly, she tells him to leave her the F alone. I think I believe his story more than hers. Because
I would always believe him more than her.
she's had a tendency to tell him to get out, to go away, to leave her alone. So, yeah, I believe him.
Yeah, I think she was more bothered about the fact that he had the forethought to take the AirTag off of his keychain.
Mm-hmm.
And now she can't track him. But what about the app on his phone? Did she forget about that again as well? Or did he also have the forethought to turn that off and or delete it?
I don't know.
But she also said that he refuses to share his location with her.
Yeah.
She said that before, so maybe it just wasn't connected. I don't know. Maybe I'm talking out my ass.
Don't do that.
Story turned phrase.
All right. Shall we read on a little bit? We did see Mark and Mina, but just briefly because obviously they're going to be focused on next week. We learned that Mina's deadline, remember this? She said she gave Mark 6 months to decide, or she would decide where they were going to live after that point. Surprise, surprise, which means zero surprise. They are now living in Boston.
I hope he still kept that house and he just bought a second one. But I
I
loved
hope
it
so
when
too.
Mina started talking and Sean cuts her off and she's like, wait, translator, why did you need to keep that in? You definitely could have cut that out.
Yeah,
What are you trying to say with that?
I don't know. It was an odd. It was odd. It was very. Yeah, it was a bit much.
Especially because she said at the beginning that they had translators for
Yes.
everyone who required one. I don't know. I wonder if she was irritated because she couldn't hear the translator, or I don't know. It's just.
But you're right. Why would they keep that segment in? Why wouldn't they just slice it so that we don't hear her going? Yeah, it was a bit sharp, a bit brusque.
Anyway.
Yeah. The next couple we focus on is the throuple, Matt, Amani, and Ani.
I would like to correct you. You said she had a butt lift, but she had a BB.
Consider myself corrected. It's a
Mhm.
Brazilian butt lift.
Yes.
What's the difference between a butt lift and a Brazilian butt lift? Is there a
I
difference?
think, yeah, there definitely is. I think the Brazilian one takes fat from all over your body, so it's more of like a full body procedure as just a butt lift.
Yeah.
So she had that on top of the other 4 surgeries. Her insecurities are absolutely raging.
Yeah. She's looking so different that she describes how she's having an identity crisis. She doesn't recognize herself anymore. Join the club. Neither do I.
Mm-hmm.
And
neither do her children.
Probably not. Think of how dramatic that would be for them, for mommy to come home and she looks totally different. Okay.
And not just that, but that healing period, because that's not, I mean, any of these procedures are not quick procedures to heal from for kids.
Yeah. Seeing the two women, Shekinah and Amani, fighting with each other, I found to be totally hilarious. They're fighting about plastic surgeries. Their faces are fake. Like you said, they're not even moving. They look like caricatures of women humans. I just couldn't take any of this seriously. They were each trying to one up each other and how mean they were to the other. It was so juvenile.
It was like Mean Girl against Mean Girl, though. If I were to give points to the winner, it would be Shekinah, because I think Shekinah is she's so much more intelligent than Amani is. And that really doesn't say much at all. But for her to message Shekinah ahead of time and be like, I'm sorry for the things that I'm going to say, but I don't mean it personally. And like, that just puts Shekinah in a position. So like in the offense. So she just let it go from the very beginning. She's like, you think that you're going to pull a fast one on me? You screwed yourself on that one. And I'm still so confused about her name. And I feel like we have been confused since the beginning, because at first it was a Minnie, and then it was Amani, and then she introduces herself as a Minnie. Sean keeps calling her a Minnie. I mean, we have seen it before where Sean is just so out to lunch she doesn't know the actual name. But the fact that she called herself a Minnie, I was like, okay, you can't identify yourself when you look in the mirror, and now you don't even know your own name. Which one is it?
Does it matter?
No, it doesn't.
No. The big news here is that the throuple is in fact still together. I was a little bit surprised by that, have to admit. They've been spending their holidays together with all of their children already then.
In which country?
I wasn't wondering about the country. I was just thinking to myself, how are these kids going to assimilate, interpret? How are they going to manage this? It must be so strange. Although the way that it was described, like, they don't care as long as they're loved. And this is somebody who loves us and we love her and their kids and everybody loves. Okay. But once they're at school and they have to talk about this or with their friends, there's some processing there that's going to be difficult, I think.
They have no consideration for the kids in any capacity. And the fact that, they just keep talking about, how the kids are loved. And it's like, but you've completely forgotten about them throughout this entire season. So how can you now say it's all about, the kids and being loved? And no, that's not what this is.
No,
and then
not really.
Then we start talking to Monty, Minnie, whatever. Or I think Matt said that she wanted to live the gay lifestyle.
Yeah. What does that mean?
So going back to our commentator, our previous one. Is she using this as an excuse to sleep with somebody other than Matt? Or I'm so confused by this, because Amani even said, she's working so much, she's a mom, how is she going to have time for sex? So now Matt's allowed to go and sleep with Ani without her, and then she says that she's never slept with Ani without Matt there. Like, what is this? Because even Matt said, this was her fantasy, this is what she wanted to do, and now he gets to reap all the benefits. Like, this guy is either the dumbest stump in the entire world, or he's just been playing dumb just to get exactly what he wants, and it's all worked out for him.
Yeah, I've struggled with that question too, because I don't think he is that intelligent, although it does seem like he's in the winning position right now, even more so than Ani. We've thought that all along that she was the one who was playing the long game and getting what she wanted and more out of this relationship. But yeah, Matt being able to sleep with Ani on his own. So he's got that side chick and he's got his wife. But did you notice they didn't mention that he and Amani are sleeping together? They didn't mention any intimacy between just the two of them, the married couple. It was all the three of them or the two others, not Amani. So yeah, he is definitely winning in all aspects. Yes, quote
the air
unquote.
quotations.
Yeah, definitely. So for me, this question of, is this just an excuse for Amani to have somebody to cheat on her husband with, doesn't really work from what we're learning now in this moment. Before, I would have said, yes, that's possible. But when she says, I'm too busy, I don't have time for anything but work or being a mom, so I'm not having sex, was like, I thought the whole point of this relationship was you wanted to sleep with a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And why haven't you had alone time with Ani without Matt? That's a surprise. And why is he saying you wanted to live the gay lifestyle? And so this is your way of living that. I don't want to say fantasy, but that lifestyle desire in you that you've had for so long. She said she's had it ever since she was a little girl. And I was like, really? A little girl? Teenager, maybe. But anyway,
It doesn't make any sense.
it doesn't add up. It really doesn't.
So we have some missing reasons there, and I know that both of us don't care.
Yes.
I wanted to make...
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
My final comment was that I thought it was rather enjoyable that neither Mott, I keep wanting to say Mott. When I smush Ani and Matt together, I get Mott. That Matt and Ani, neither of them like Amini's new face or body. They both very obviously, although they're trying to be diplomatic about it, they both have a problem with how she looks now. And I thought that was poetic justice. Yes. Sorry. Go on. What was your comment?
I had two, and that was one of them. And then the other one is I absolutely loved the fact that Sean didn't ask how their divorce was going.
Good question. Yeah. Are they getting divorced? Is there any progress?
Because at least Imani was pushing for it. You know, you have to choose who you want to get married to because we have to get divorced.
Yeah.
And then we have to plan 3 weddings.
Right.
And Sean doesn't ask that question. So now we're left in the dark. No, how am I going to sleep at night?
I'm sure you'll sleep just fine like a baby in beautiful British Columbia. All right. We see Sean and Aaliyah just for a very, very brief moment. They describe that they are an 8 on the happiness scale for their marriage. However, they are at a 0 for sex. They are not having it. So how on earth are they at 8? This remains to be seen next week.
Because Sean is happy that he gets to go back to his previous F buddies. Because remember, he said if he's not satisfied in the bedroom, that's what's really going to impact that. So if they're not having sex at all, he probably is.
Yes. No doubt.
So he's cheating.
Delightful. Okay.
I was like, where are you going with that face?
That's my grossed out face. Okay. Jessica and Juan. Jessica has not started learning Spanish yet. No shit. Color me surprised. Not. Greg and Joan. Are they still living with mom? Yes. Yes, they're still living with mom. But he is working. He's working. That's fantastic. He hasn't lost his job. He's working a lot. And unnecessary guests. Okay.
Before you get there.
Not talking about unnecessary guests.
Sorry. When they first arrived and they were interviewing Greg about how he was feeling, it seemed as though he was like just about to enter the ring, like in WWE or something. And he's like, you know, I'm really looking forward to seeing what everyone else brings to the table. And I'm really looking forward to this fight. And I think it's going to be a great fight. But, you know, I'm positive that we're going to come out ahead. I don't know why my head was doing that bopping thing, but it was that's how I felt. So like Greg he seemed to be really invested. Yeah, he was really into it. And then they bring out Big Ed. Why?
What the fuck? Why do we need to see this asshole? I was so angry. I basically tuned out because I do not want to see this man speak another word for the rest of my life.
Yeah,
that is all I have to say about that.
Who are you? And what business do you have saying anything? And that was my only comment.
Love it. Lucille, she is the next unnecessary guest. Maybe slightly necessary. Okay, so when Lucille arrives, the topic of pregnancy comes up. There's a lot of controversial stuff going back and forth between Lucille, Joan, and various members of the cast, most notably Shekinah, about whether or not they should be trying or not trying, but maybe kind of sort of trying to have a kid while under Lucille's roof. Personally, I don't care. That's their decision. My thought went immediately to, can you afford to have a kid right now, given you're living at mom's house? If Greg is working 14-hour days and you can't even afford to rent an apartment to be able to move out on your own, what the hell are you thinking about having kids for? Really? Is this the best time? I'm not concerned about whether it's under mom's roof or under their own roof. I'm just thinking, economically, are you stupid? Kids are expensive. Very expensive.
Mm-hmm. I don't understand. I think this is obviously a personal thing, but people who get married and immediately start having kids, you don't have that opportunity to continue to establish your relationship together. And then you bring in kids without resolving any of the issues that you've had previously. And now you have many, many more issues. Like, babies aren't Band-Aids. And I'm not saying that Joan wants a baby for a Band-Aid, but there's still a lot of cracks.
And she is only 26.
She's got tons of time.
She's got bags of time.
I would just, she's so rational. She's so reasonable. She's so intelligent. I really just wish that she'd take a step back on this one. Mm-hmm. And you know what? Let's get established. Let me get my green card. Let me start working so I can help with the bills. Let's get our own place. And then let's have a kid. So I'm kind of surprised that she's at the forefront of this. And obviously Greg's not going to refute it. Mm-hmm. He's not going to fight her on any of this. But yeah, like what you said, like what's the plan? And Lucille was like, I don't want to raise another baby. I don't want to have that in my house.
Yeah, and that's perfectly legitimate. It's her totally house. Valid. And yeah, she shouldn't have to be responsible for a child. But given that Joan is not working, you would think that even if they did end up having a kid while living under Lucille's roof, that Joan would be taking care of that child 100% of the time, except for like maybe an occasional this or that. Still, I'm just like, priorities, guys. First, move out, get settled, establish your nest egg so that you can do this on your own. Then children, not anyway. I thought the comments from the other cast members about, they shouldn't, it's disrespectful to have kids under your mom's roof. I was like, that's bullshit. I really don't care about that. You can't say that. But thinking about it logically, rationally, if you cannot afford to move out into your own place, if you haven't gotten to that stage of life where you are independent enough to live on your own, you are not capable of having a child and raising it on your own. It's a process.
I'd like to bring up Emily and Kobe. Obviously, the first baby was a whoops. But the second one was not, despite Kobe promising Emily's dad that he wouldn't have another baby under the roof. That is disrespectful.
Mm-hmm. And they had a third baby while still under dad and mom's roof. And now that they've moved out, they are now having a fourth.
You know what? Whatever. They seem to be doing great. So have fun. Yeah. And then she kind of seemed to be almost attacking Joan.
Yes.
About the whole baby thing. And I had to laugh when Joan pipes up and she told Shekinah to calm down. I laughed so hard my cousin yelled at me from upstairs. She's like, what are you laughing at? Bee's laughing hysterically at this moment in time.
Favorite words. Calm down. Favorite. Mm-hmm. And I love that Shekinah told that to Joan. The other way around.
It was Joan. Yeah.
Yes. Perfect timing. Love that. Mm-hmm. The other final comment that I had about them was when they were talking about the possibility of them moving to Uganda, which I thought was awesome, that Greg is totally open to this idea so that Joan would be able to be with her family as well. And then they talk to Lucille and they say, okay, so Lucille, what do you think about this? And she said, oh, well, I would never go there. And I had to laugh because Lucille, like, saying that she's not going to travel to Uganda was clearly a little power move on her part. Like, I know my son, and my son won't go live in a country halfway across the world unless I say that it's okay and unless I indicate that I'm comfortable to come and visit him every now and again, because they have a close relationship. So this is her way of undermining that idea and, in effect, manipulating the couple into not moving to Uganda.
I think that just the idea of it is so laughable to her because he still lives at home. He has no idea what it's like to live on his own, let alone to live in Uganda. Mm-hmm. And the guy looks like, he thinks about the sun and gets burnt. So he's going to have a hell of a time with that. I cannot see him being diligent with his sunscreen application.
Yes.
I can't see that being a thing.
But he has been there before, so at least he knows what he would be getting himself into a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not completely shitting on the guy. I just laugh about the thought.
Good. Well, that concludes all of my commentary on this just delightful episode of the Tell All Part 1. there's only one more part to go.
And that is the best thing that has come from today.
Yes, I have a cat here who wants to say something. What is it, Line? Macau. Okay, I think that means we must move on. Let us discuss Match Me Abroad Season 2, Episode 1. We meet 3 contestants, 3 cast members. I think there's a lot of material here. I know you said to me earlier that you found this a little bit lackluster. This episode was a bit boring. Mm-hmm. Yes, it is just the intros. We're just getting to know these people. We're not actually being able to see the juicy, meaty date segments. But I do think that there is so much material, especially in the 2 women. I really believe that they're going to deliver. What was that look? You don't agree, or you do agree? That was
I agree that.
Okay.
I had to write a note because Amber acts too fast, and Monica has been relying on her child for so much emotional support and hasn't been able to find a man, and she's been using her child as an excuse to not find someone. Yep. And then when she starts talking about what she's looking for, everything she describes is exactly the issues that she's having with dating where she's at. Everyone wants the newest model, the pretty one with the perfect body. And then she starts talking about what she wants from her, was the Brazilian man?
Yes, she goes to Brazil.
Yes. So she wants him chiseled. She wants him good looking. Everything's all about looks.
Okay. But remember, she's 40. She's 41. So she's in that stage. She's like the nonstop, I want sex stage of her life.
But she can have sex, she can develop a relationship and be intimate with someone who doesn't look like they've just walked off the face of a magazine.
Yes.
She doesn't say, I want someone who's kind and loving and honest and family oriented.
Nope.
No. Everything
it's the daughter who says those things. She wants somebody who's kind and who's loving and who's going to treat her well. And I'm like, why isn't she saying these things? Why does she just say hard body and 6-pack and big dick? Well, okay, she didn't say those things, but that's what she wants. That is so what she wants. Okay,
I don't know if I've ever heard you use that word before.
Okay, we got to backtrack a little bit.
15 years of friendship. Finally heard.
There's a first for everything. Amber. Yes. Let's talk about Amber. She's 38 from Texas. She said, she's 38. She says she's been dating for 3 decades. That means you've been dating since you were 8, honey. I don't think so. 2 decades. Yes. 3. I don't know what's going on in Texas because I've never been there. But if you're dating at 8, there is a problem.
What's going on in Texas?
I don't know. Amber.
She's been engaged 3 times.
I know.
3.
I see. There's so much material. There's so much material here.
I know it's coming. I was bored.
Okay. Amber has chosen Ireland to find the love of her life in the Emerald Isle. What? The love of her life. No. Okay, let's give her the benefit of the doubt. Her matchmaker is Katarina. We met her last season in Prague. Katarina is so good at pinpointing the problem in the dater. I love Katarina. She's unstoppable. So she's identified that Amber is impatient and she rushes into relationships. No fucking shit. As you mentioned, Amber's been engaged 3 times, but does not have a wedding ring. She has never been married. So this is very, very, very interesting. To me, I immediately went to, she's one of those people who loves the pursuit. She loves the challenge, the getting to the point of securing a relationship with somebody. And then once you have that security and that boring part, as some people perceive it to be, where you're completely safe and you can show yourself fully, she splits because she doesn't enjoy that.
She loves the honeymoon phase.
Yes.
And then as soon as things get difficult, we don't know if she's broken off the weddings, if the other person has broken off the weddings. We don't know. I'm sure we'll find out.
Perhaps.
But I love that she said, when I found out that, it was going to be Ireland, I started doing a ton of research and then she makes mention that she's excited to go and she hopes that she finds a man who's wearing a kilt.
I don't think she's confusing Scotland with Ireland because they do wear kilts in Ireland as well, but I don't think to the extent that they do in Scotland. Plus, she says that she has Irish roots. So this is kind of like going to find a distant cousin. That is not right. Okay. This would feel like coming home because she has roots in Ireland. The big thing that perhaps has caused an immense change in Amber's life is the fact that she had this huge health issue not too long ago where she was diagnosed with congestive heart failure and she nearly died. And so this has changed her outlook and the course of her life events. Maybe now she's looking for something different. Maybe she really does desire to settle down now. We don't know. We're going to find out. But she's identified this Irish traditional man as her most appealing prospect for a relationship.
Okay.
Then they go to the mixer. This is so, wow, inspirational.
I wouldn't say that.
So very different an approach to a mixer where Katerina has the couples singles get into couples and do tasks where they're not speaking, but they're just doing something. The first one, the man leading the woman to dance, was kind of interesting. The second one, did that give me the heebie-jeebies? First of all, this is somebody that you have never met before. You know their name only because they're wearing a name tag. And they're putting their hand on your chest so that you can breathe in synchronicity together.
And then stare deep into each other's eyes so you can get lost in the love.
It's so intimate. It's so intimate. And I would feel grossed out by doing that with somebody that I just met. With somebody you know, maybe. With somebody you know very well, sure. Somebody you just met who's a perfect stranger, creepy galore.
And so Katerina already knows that she likes to jump the gun. And so you want to create a task that's supposed to create intimacy between her and another human being. And you expect her to calm down, to not jump into it. And, the way that she fluttered her fake eyelashes when she opened her eyes and the way that she was just staring so lovingly at him, it's like, this was a mistake. Katerina has already said she falls in love way too quickly. And you put her in this situation.
Exactly.
How about a nice ice cream date?
How about a nice speed dating session? 7 minutes tops. I know. I found it fascinating that Katerina decided to undertake the very exercise that Amber would fall prey to and immediately slip into her former habits with.
Immediately. Now that you say that, makes me realize that this is very likely calculated on Katerina's behalf because she's going to be pulling Amber aside and Amber's going to be screaming from the top of the mountain that she finally found her man, and Katerina's going to reel her right back in and be like, this is the problem.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a check.
Okay. I look forward to finding out if that's how it unfolds.
I trust Katerina.
I do too.
So I believe that there was a point to this, but I couldn't not say something about it.
Okay. Shall we read on?
Yes, ma'am.
Monica. She is 41. Of California. She lives right on the beach, man. Dude.
It's a life, yeah.
Is she totally loaded? Why is she single with all this beautiful real estate? Okay. Anyway.
In California.
It's
expensive.
Yes.
Literally everywhere.
Yes. As you mentioned, she's been dating American men who are constantly looking for the next best thing. They won't settle. Fine. I think we all have heard that, seen that, experienced that in some way or another.
And it wasn't just that they won't settle. It's because they won't date her because she's a single mom. And I really wanted to throw my arms up in the air. I don't date men who have kids because I don't want my own. That is not something that I want for my lifestyle. And you want to use that against them? Do you want to be with a man who doesn't want kids, who doesn't like kids, just because you're lonely? Don't you want to have someone who's going to love you and your kid? It seemed like she just wants someone to love her so bad without thinking about whether or not they're going to accept her child.
Well, as somebody who was a single mom dating, I can tell you that a lot of people will contact you on whatever dating app you're on, and then they find out that you're a single mom if they haven't actually read your profile, which is usually the case. And then they're all shocked and like, oh, I don't know if I can take that on. I'm not really into that. So I took it that way, that she's encountered men who find it a problem that she's a single mom, not that she's been dating people who then reveal later on that they don't want to be with her because she's a mom.
Then maybe I twisted my words, because I was coming from like the same perspective as you. You know, they find out that she has a kid and that's a problem. So I'm not saying that she starts dating and then she drops it later, just from the very beginning, because I've been on dating apps before and currently. And the amount of people that don't put whether or not they have kids.
Yeah.
If you have kids, absolutely no. If you don't have your kids mentioned, I might match if everything else works out, but I'm going to ask you if you have kids within the first like 5 minutes of us conversing. Because again, that's not something that I want in my life. So if you have kids, that's great for you, but that's not something that I want for my life.
Yeah.
So I think it's best to be honest up front. That's just my perspective. So yeah, it does suck, but it also sucks on my side as well. I don't have kids. I don't want them. So why should I date you because you're a fantastic person, but you have a child and I don't want that. And I don't want to call it baggage, because I don't think that kids are baggage. That's just an aspect of your life that I don't want to participate in. And if you're involved in your children's life, then that's not something that you want for them either.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really important to be honest and upfront about what you're looking for. And it seems like either she hasn't been upfront or the men haven't been upfront, but somewhere along the line that has been an issue for Monica. So she's turning to Brazil. She's got a matchmaker whose name is Louisa. And Louisa, we don't know her before. We have not met her. As far as I recall, the matchmaker in South America last season was a man, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So Louisa identifies that Monica perhaps isn't open to having a relationship, or hasn't been open to having a relationship, because she's prioritized other things in her life, specifically motherhood. But now that we have this daughter who is a fully fledged adult and wanting to live her own life, Monica needs to spread her wings and just, get the hell on with her life. So her daughter doesn't feel like she has to prop her mother up and be her only support system.
I think that's so sad. Like the amount of emotional
dependency.
Yeah. I think that's so sad. That poor kid. And I can appreciate the fact that her child wants her to, I keep saying child, but she's an adult, that she wants her to go out and, have her own life and do her own thing, because she doesn't want to have to worry about her mom. This kid is probably one of the most emotionally intelligent kids that we have seen on reality TV in such a long time. She's so supportive. She's so loving. She just wants the best for her mom and also for herself.
Yeah, the daughter was great. And like I said before, the daughter was identifying qualities and characteristics in what Monica should be looking for that were real character traits, not just physical looks, which I got a kick out of, because the daughter seems to be a little bit more mature than her mom. And by a little bit, I mean a lot. So Monica gets to see one of her potential classmates, love mates. What's the word I'm looking for?
Matches.
Thank you.
It's called Match Made Abroad, as we have decided, or we figured out earlier today.
She gets to see one of these potential matches in a video that Louisa shows her online. This guy's name is Bruno, and Monica's smitten already, it seems to me. She seems like she's another one of these leap before you look type people, just the way that Amber is. You look confused.
So I'm writing with my pen, and I just pulled out, I don't know if you can see this.
Hair? A long hair.
Bruno's fur.
Bruno. And we're talking about your dog, for those who are listening or watching. And we're talking about Bruno, the Brazilian dude that Monica wants to jump already.
Sorry, that just...
Bruno. Sweet
How
Bruno.
How did that come out of my pen? It's inside my pen.
I don't know.
That's very strange.
But cat and dog fur gets everywhere, so...
But I haven't seen him in 3 years. That's not my choice. If we don't cut that out, just want to clarify that.
Yes.
Anyway, going back to Bruno, her first reaction is, he is so cute. And he says he wants someone who's energetic. And that's me. Oh, Lord. Can you get a little deeper than that? Slightly deeper? Nope. He's cute and he wants someone who's energetic. Again, is he family oriented? Does he like to, well, he did say he liked to work out, which is good because she runs marathons and is very active. But is that your only commonality, that he's cute and he wants someone who's energetic?
The way that I look at it is it's a starting point. You find out the other.
My God, I am so pessimistic today.
You
That's on
start
me.
off with the little things or the large strokes. I'm not sure if it's the big strokes or the small strokes that you start with, but you start off with something in common.
Getting off the strokes over that, right?
Not those kind of
Turn a
strokes.
phrase,
Stop
Amy.
it.
Turn a phrase.
Stop it.
God.
Stop it. Oh, I'm sure she's going to get to those. Oh my God, she's so thirsty. Just saying, strokes of some kind. Anyway, she's going to get to know him more. I'm sure they will find other commonalities other than just being energetic. So we have much to see here. And let us read on, because Harold is waiting. And dear sweet Harold, we saw him last season come so close and yet so far from finding his love in Czech Republic. So Harold,
He warms my heart.
he does.
He is so genuine. He's so authentic, and he's so eager to not to please, but to learn, to become a better person, to set himself up to receive the love. And he came so far when he met Michaela. Was that her name?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. And so he got to have that opportunity, and he made the comment, in order to find love again, I have to try again.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought that was so beautiful, because how many people, they go through their first breakup, they're like, I'm never going to date again. And yet he sees this as an opportunity to not just meet someone new, but to continue better himself for himself and for someone else. Like, it's just, he's such a rare soul.
Absolutely.
I love Harold. I want to protect him with my entire life.
Yes, the maternal instincts definitely kick in with Harold. He is
after my whole spiel about not wanting kids and whatever.
But you have cats and you have had a dog, so you definitely have maternal instincts. They're just directed at the furry set rather than the hairless skin creatures.
I went to a 10-year-old's vocal performance on Saturday because she asked.
Well done. Well done. Well done.
Yes.
You do have an excellent rapport with kids, so it is a bit of a conundrum. Anyway, let's talk about Harold.
Anyway,
43.
Back to Harold.
He's living in Texas with his grandma. How pure and honest is that? Like, come on. He's living with his grandma. But he travels all over the U.S. And this I did not remember from last year. Maybe it's changed, maybe not. He's a radiation detection technician? I had no idea. So he goes
didn't know that either.
All over the place, spends 3 months here, 3 months there, 3 months off, whatever. So he's got this big period of time when he's off. He's decided to go to Singapore this time to find a bride. He asked Katerina, his matchmaker from last season, to recommend somebody, and she set him up with Dolly in Singapore. Now, Dolly, I don't know if things are going to work out with Dolly as his matchmaker. What did you think of her?
I found her pretty abrasive for our sweet Harold.
Yes.
We know that Katerina is very to the point, but she says things in a way that, like, it's a gentle to the point. Like, we need a makeover for you. We're going to do this. We need to work on your fashion, or however she said that. And then Dolly says, I don't know. She just said so many negative things.
She said you can't be yourself. You can't be yourself.
You have to be Harold 2.0.
2.0. Fuck.
Or whatever that is. Like, Harold doesn't need to be Harold 2.0. Harold is probably Harold 507,000, whatever. Those numbers don't even make sense. But, there have been so many renditions of him, and he just keeps getting better and better and better. But it really felt like she was like, leave old Harold at home and become a whole new person.
Yeah.
And then for her to judge him, I felt she was judging him on his suspenders. And she asks, what are you measuring with that? And he's like, the quality of a man. Like, he's just so endearing. He's funny. He's intelligent. He's articulate. And, he's so eager to learn. Mm-hmm. He has such tenacity. Mm-hmm. And then for her to come out and say that, I feel like she just did a real disservice to him. I really hope that he doesn't take it to heart and he hears what she meant as opposed to the words that came out of her mouth. Because I wonder if there is that language barrier and the intent wasn't to tell him to, leave Harold at home and become someone completely different.
Yeah.
That's my hope. But then
Okay.
she tells him to leave the suspenders at home. So I still have hope because he deserves it. Really hope that she learns how to speak to him in a more gentle and respectful manner. And I'm not saying she's an asshole, because I really don't think that that's what she means, but she really needs to adjust her communication style
Yeah,
if
definitely.
she's going to be as helpful as Katerina. But if Katerina had suggested her, then obviously she's got to be good at what she does, because we trust Katerina.
Mm-hmm.
God, I have a lot more to say about this than I thought I did. So it's just not the initial, or not the introduction that I was hoping for him. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, I just kind of like went off on that one there.
No, it's all good. Last season, when Katerina was dealing with Harold, I felt like she understood him. She knew how to handle somebody with autism. She was, as you said, gentle with him, but she was also firm. And so she would suggest things to him like, let's go get a clothing makeover, and perhaps you should leave the suspenders behind. Because she also told him to get rid of the suspenders, but she did it much more tactfully than Dolly does. And she never, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, said to Harold when he was in Czech Republic, don't be you, be somebody else, or be yourself, but a better version of yourself. She never was judgmental in that particular way towards him. And when Dolly says to Harold, or maybe she says it to us, I want to encourage him to be more confident, to be more manly. Okay, that's one thing. But in order to do that, why are you cutting him down and criticizing him so much in the very essence of who he is as a person? Like, it's one thing to say, okay, well, that sweater, it's not really the climate. People don't tend to wear sweaters in Singapore because it's very hot and humid.
You're going to sweat your balls off, sir.
Yes.
Cashmere is not for this weather.
Good. But then to say to him, don't say those things when he's giving his one-liners, which I find just adorable and endearing. That's
And
who
he wasn't
is.
being serious about it.
Yeah.
He's just so sweet and pure.
He's innocent, and he's trying so very, very hard to figure out how to navigate this world that he doesn't understand quite the same way that other people do. Neurotypical. Am I saying that right? Neurotypical. Okay.
Now you're making me question it.
Atypical?
Someone who is not neurotypical.
Okay, so he's
neurodivergent.
Neurodivergent. Thank you.
As someone who also is neurodivergent,
yes,
that took a long time.
I knew you'd be able to get there. He is different. And so you would think that Dolly, as somebody who knows Katerina, we don't know in what capacity, but they're fellow matchmakers, why don't they share notes? Why didn't Katerina say to her, okay, well, he's neurodivergent, and so keep that in mind with how you deal with him. Maybe don't be so critical, or I don't know what the approach would be exactly, but it just seems to me that there's something wrong with how Dolly is approaching this.
I agree. I wouldn't be surprised if they had a case file on him and she did share it. But I mean, I don't think that we know enough about Dolly to be able to properly assess her ability to help him. I think this is going to be a learning experience for all of us. I just hope that instead of cutting him down, that she leans on Katerina and says, I feel like there's like a breakdown of communication, or maybe I'm just not getting through to him or something. And hopefully this happens before it makes him feel degraded or not good enough, or it just impacts his self-esteem or his motivation in any capacity. Just, taking the offense to it, as opposed to, I've hurt his feelings. How do I maneuver this? Like, I'm not saying to treat him with kid gloves, because he's not a child. He's a grown-ass man. He behaves and thinks like one. He just thinks a little differently, and that's okay. Excuse me. Sometimes it takes some effort to be able to communicate in a way that's receptive.
Yeah. The way that I felt about it was that when I was watching Harold's face in all of those scenes where Dolly was saying something that I would consider to be somewhat harsh or very harsh.
Rude.
Yes, rude even. For the most part, he was okay with it, but there were some points when you could see that he was genuinely affected by her words and crestfallen. And if her purpose, what she said is her purpose, is to build his confidence, then why does she start by undermining him with these criticisms and judgments that affect his self-esteem, that would affect anybody's self-esteem right off the bat? I don't get it. So I am so hopeful for Harold that he's going to find love this time. However, I'm somewhat dubious and skeptical of Dolly and how she's going to handle him. I hope that whoever she finds to match him up with can prop him up and allow him to be himself so that he doesn't feel like he has to put on a facade, because that's just sad.
I agree. Yeah, he kind of looked a little dejected at some moments, and I probably pushed that out of my brain because God forbid anyone hurt our sweet Harold.
We will be enraged if she does him a dirty, as you said. Yes. Any further comments, or is that it?
No, I think that's it.
Okay.
I think that's it for me.
We got a little taste, a little preview of the season of Match Me Abroad that is yet to come. There were a couple of things that I wanted to call out. One was the guy who uses AI on his dating profile to enhance all of his photographs, and then he's complaining that he might be difficult. Sir, this is deceitful. A deceitful practice. Yes. We do not use AI.
He doesn't look like a Minecraft character. I mean, that's catfishing 101.
Yeah. And then,
excuse me, sir, you're not as pixelated as you were online.
No, but he's totally smooth. He looks like a cartoon, like an anime almost, because he's so smooth.
I know. I was being so dramatic about it.
Monica's going to fall in love with two men. Of course she is. Of course. And I can't wait to see how this unfolds. It's going to be priceless. That's it. That's the extent of my enthusiasm.
I look forward to the next episode. I know that I'm sad that this one was pretty dull, and it was. And I had a lot more to say than I thought I was going to, but it's more my sweet Harold. We must protect him at all costs. He's going to become, if he is not already, a Match Me Abroad icon.
I agree.
And for the right reasons.
Yes. Thank you. Not Shekinah, Amani, a mini, not dramatic seeking, clout chasing, just because he is who he is and we love him for it.
Exactly.
All right. Before we go, if you're enjoying the 90 Day Fiancé Honestly podcast, please subscribe to or give our show a follow. And if you have an additional moment, please rate us and help other 90 Day fans to find our show. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, everyone.
See you next week.